Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our final presentation of 2015. That sounds kind of crazy, I guess, but it's true. I'm Jamie Machek, excuse me, with the Nicolet Federated Library System in Green Bay, and here with me today is Kymberley Pelky with the Oneida Community Library, and she's going to be talking about the 5 practices in after-school programming. As the slideshow mentioned, we are recording today's presentation. It will be up on our website hopefully later today. And I do also want to mention about the Wild Wisconsin Winter Web Conference. You also saw that in the slideshow. That is coming up on January 20th and 21st. There is a youth services track in that conference. There's also some other tracks that you might want to check out. So we're really excited about that. Our new schedule for 2016 is also available. That just went up yesterday, and that's also available on our website under Continuing Education. And you're welcome to sign up for any of those programs as well. So enough of me. We're going to get right to the presentation. This is a 30-minute Thursday, which means it's just a 30-minute presentation, a little bit shorter than our usual hour-long ones. And Kymberley, whenever you are ready, go right ahead.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Okay, so we'll just get started right away and let you know that the 5 practices are play, talk, write, read, and sing. And we gear these practices toward early literacy programming, but literacy is a part of lifelong learning. And where better to do that than a library? So some of these practices are not being used as frequently in school, especially play, talk, and sing. But while researching for this presentation, I was surprised I could even add write to the list of practices not being used frequently in school. We will discuss using these practices as part of after-school programming or summer programming, and then using them to continue and enhance the literacy and learning. These 5 practices are researched. They are proven to be effective ways to prepare early learners for school, but I personally didn't see how these practices would be any less valuable for the school-age program attendees, whether it's for after-school, weekend, or even summer programming, and wanted to continue the learning this way so that it is learning disguised, because then it's learning that's fun. And some of these ideas that I will give you today should be able to take you right into teen programming. So every child talking. Talk is one of the practices. It's a way to get to know your patrons, your program participants. It opens up dialogue, whether it's about book or school or life. And you can use books as the basis for conversation as needed, but you don't have to stop there. If you know the children for whom you conduct programming, then talking is easy. If you don't, then it's a great way to connect with them, which will provide the basis for adding other practices to everything you do with youth after school. Ideas for talking include what some refer to as a book talk or even a shelf talk. And a book talk, I'm thinking about reading a chapter of a great book instead of using a picture book, so that older youth, your school-age youth, feel your choice is more age-appropriate, and then you can suggest some more books to read.
Kymberley?
Or you find some, yes?
I'm going to ask you to slow down just a little bit because you're sharing a lot of great ideas, but you're speaking very rapidly.
Okay, I can talk slower.
Thank you.
No problem. Find someone that's browsing books on the shelf when you're not programming, and then you can talk to them too. And there's some really great ideas for book talks on the Teacher Scholastic webpage entitled Book Talks. So you can head there and familiarize yourself with the book talks that they have available and compare them to your own collection. Keep in mind when you read chapter books, you do it the same way as you do the picture books to your early literacy crowd. Wonder aloud about things, ask questions, have them predict what comes next. What is fun with the after-school crowd is that you can also have them make alternate endings for the books or chapters. And we've done that in programming where I just read a chapter and then we change the chapter end. And then usually they take over from there and then just completely develop this whole other book, and it's rather fun. You can talk during a craft time. as well. And many times all I find I have to do, whether it's in the shelves during a program while we're crafting, is get the conversation started, and then it doesn't stop. It's not like the goal has to be getting them to talk to you either, because sometimes they just won't do that. It can also be about getting them to talk to each other and in a polite indoor voice, respectful kind of way. In the bibliography is also a link to a rubric for 6th and 7th graders in conducting book talks as an assignment. But I thought some of the ideas given to the students for that could give you ideas of your own. So now we're to every child singing, and that's probably the scariest of the practices. So let's just go with music. It's easier for the singing to become a concept of music here. If you and your program attendees are comfortable with singing, go for it. But because using language with the other side of your brain is a wonderful way to increase language comprehension, and having music as part of your programming is going to improve rhythmic thinking and comprehension, although the studies actually show that when it comes to music, there's more improvement with math understanding. Singing current song lyrics or tying in a current hint with a book on the shelf or developing a soundtrack for a character in a book, or even like when the book is turned into a movie and you can think about the soundtrack from the movie, then you can compare with if they thought the song was appropriate for the book or what they would choose. But it's always getting music and singing into your after-school programs. Programs to use for multimedia use could be Spotify, Pandora, or GrooveShark. And GrooveShark, I know for sure, is one where you can make your own playlist based on the songs that others have uploaded. So you get to choose the songs. You don't have to take what songs the app or the program or website chooses for you. If the idea of copyright has you a bit nervous, then you can look for music in Creative Commons, which is music that you can share. And there's a link to that in either the bibliography or the resources slide later. Every child reading. So reading is what we do, but we also need to think about how we do it. Just as picture books have that rich language for early learners, the chapter books offer language and vocabulary many children don't hear in day-to-day life. Offering nonfiction selections to go along with a chapter book on display or being excerpted in a program is an even richer way to get their language synopsis firing. I still use phonics ideas or phonological awareness when I read, as I find the school-age children still need this presented to them from time to time. Interrupting the story to talk about words, the word sounds in a fun way, talk about rhyming, or even doing something like reading the word wrong, such as if it starts with a G, I pronounce it with the wrong sound, like giraffe becomes giraffe instead, so they have to correct me. I slow it down a little to bring their attention to it. Sometimes I get everyone focused on the story again, too, once someone notices I said it wrong. There's times when no one notices I say it wrong, and I may bring it up and ask them about it, or I may just keep going and kind of pretend it never happened. For ideas on meeting the needs of my after-school youth, I head to a page of standards so I know what is expected of them at their age or grade level. It's the Common Core State Standards Initiative page and is again listed on the bibliography page for you. I usually gear my programs to about the 2nd or 3rd grade level, unless it is specifically a teen or tween program, but it might be totally different for your crowd. So you kind of got to pick according to, what ages you're working with, because every community, every library is different. One of the schools in the area for me is considered an at-risk school, and the children aren't always age appropriate with their learning. But whether or not that pertains to the children in the program, I find meeting the needs of a grade or even 2 grades below the age of the attendees makes it more fun. This way it's a review of the skills, and it solidifies their foundation of learning without making it work or challenging like, school's supposed to do. And that's not what I want in a general program. I've had swings in the population where the children attending want that challenge and would offer them something extra instead, but otherwise, no. I'm not there to challenge. I'm not really there to teach new skills. I just want it to be fun and review the skills they should already know. Great picture books for younger school age can also be found on the Growing Wisconsin Reader School page. and that's on the resources slides, as is the Books by Game page from Reading Rockets, which is another really great place to go. Every child writing. For my early learning programs, instead of writing, I call it utensil use. And I try to keep that in mind for after school too. So much more of children's writing is now on the computer, but they still do write out assignments, and children still struggle with it. So incorporating such things as chalk drawing outside or painting with paintbrushes gets them used to that grip without getting the groans that occur when I tell them we're going to be writing something during summer program or after school programs. I do try to avoid the groans. When it comes to actual writing, we do exercises that include writing. This summer, I received a box of books from First Book called Disney's Phineas and Ferb, Agent P's Guide to Fighting Evil. And we went through the book for the summer reading program, just a little part. We just do it like a chapter or so that we could all better learn to be heroes. And every child got to keep their copy. The book incorporated reading, writing, playing, and talking. And I know some of the children actually some days came to the program just to work in that book. I will be hard-pressed to come up with something else to do the same for this summer, but I am hoping to develop something with a sport theme because it was just so successful. It was the book that actually made me think of the 5 practices as being part of the school-age programs we offer. Although it wasn't until we started the book and the summer program was in full gear, so I didn't find a way to get singing in there, except one day when I made them sing a phrase of the song to be their passcode for entering their secret lair. But back to writing. However, and seeing that they needed this and how it helped them understand more of what they were reading in the book when we reviewed, yet it was fun enough that they didn't see it as schoolwork. And that's what made me want to replicate what we were doing and implement something like it every summer.
Kimberly?
Yes?
I had a question.
I am the worst presenter ever, aren't I?
No. I had a question come in and it was timely to this, so I thought I would actually 2 came in, so I thought I would just interrupt you quickly so we could I could ask you these.
Okay.
Someone just asked, did you get these books for free or was this from a First Books program?
It was from the First Book Marketplace, and these were ones I was able to purchase from that because we do get a First Book grant. But their grant says I have to give so many books to so many children, and the grant I get doesn't cover it, so I always end up buying more.
Okay.
And this one year, I just picked like 3 or 4 books to give away, and instead everything was a case of, and I'm like, what am I going to do with all these books? But that one was easy, and it was totally unplanned, and I got it right before the summer program, but it was really successful, and so I'm hoping we can do stuff like that again. And
okay.
Then you had another question?
We'll wait till the end for that one. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I incorporate journaling every summer, but don't usually have many takers for it. We usually have some sort of a little journal that I'll give out and tell them that they can journal what we're doing. And But what I ended up adapting that to is then making playlists for the participants. So we take part of the summer program every so many days, once a week or something, and we get everyone's favorites, and I have them usually write them down, and if they're willing to share why they like something, and so it's like favorite books, favorite movies, favorite, just anything, sports to do outside, favorite things to do in winter even, just try and make a list, but usually it's summer geared. And then I compile them and share them with the group, and then one year I even had them listed in the local paper. We do sometimes have questions that they write the answers for, not just the favorites, but topics such as bullying. And I'll have them write ideas down and then present them anonymously, putting the papers into a book or folder so no one can see whose work I'm sharing. It's just a way to get them to write and not be embarrassed about anything, and then we'll share it with the group. And they're just, getting that little bit of writing in for the summer. I also incorporate poetry, and up on the screen right now are some photos with some simple ideas that we accomplished. And then down below is a picture of a chalk drawing I just happened to take because as soon as we started chalk drawing, it started to rain. I don't know if you can see the little raindrops on the sidewalk, and so I'm like, I'll go get the camera, I'll save her stuff. But it was up above that is acrostic poems, And so the first one is summer reading, and then program in the purple. And the camera just happened to take it that way. And but I kept it because I like purple. And so that was just something we did as part of the summer program, and then we put it on display on this whiteboard that I have. Okay, and then every child playing, and the Child Development Institute says play is the work of children. And I was glad that this slide was last, because I was as talkative as I sometimes am and as quickly as I sometimes speak. I was worried that I would have to cut it short, but was hoping not to, because I am an avid proponent of play. And this is really important because children's time to play in schools has been greatly reduced. A study in 2008 by David Elkind shows that children have lost 20 hours of free play per week in the last 20 years. And we can't make all that up at the library, but we can help them provide some of that free choice play with our programs, offerings, and even our drop-in activities. And another quote is from an online article that I found called "The Crisis in Kindergarten." And it says, research shows that children who engage in complex forms of socio-dramatic play have greater language skills than non-players, better social skills, more empathy, more imagination, and more of the subtle capacity to know what others mean. They are less aggressive and show more self-control and higher levels of thinking. And so here's the importance of play for so many reasons, and yet more and more play is being taken away from children of all grades. The studies of the importance of play are amazing in their findings. An article I found in InfoSoup, our card catalog, was appropriately called Play in the Library, and it quotes so many studies about play and stuff that I'll be studying the references that they have for a while. But one thing I wanted to share with you is that it says, perhaps the single best place for learning through play is the library. It is a space that houses the tools needed for knowledge building, and that play is a way for children to make sense of the world they will inherit. When information becomes something to play with, they have a way to cope with the vast amount available. And play might be something you're already doing. Many libraries are offering Lego playtimes and other programs, so this might be easy for you to incorporate by following their examples if you're not doing it. My method is pulling out the puppet stage and providing puppets with a corresponding book. I've also scripted some of the animal fables like Tortoise and the Hare, Three Billy Goats Gruff, and scripts like them so that the children can play with them. And then once they're starting to play with them, they usually ad-lib for the rest of the time they're at the theater because their creative juices get flowing and they just go with it. I tried to insert the scripts into the PowerPoint so I could show you a bit of, but it didn't work. So I'll upload them onto my LinkedIn account if you're interested in looking at any of them, using any of them at your libraries. If you have a few puppets you think would work with it, and and then this presentation too, and other things that we'll do for play here in Oneida are board games, card games, and video games. But I really recommend the article Play in the Library, and that is in the bibliography slide as well, because there's just some really good talking points if you have to encourage a board or a director into having more materials in order with which to play at the library, whether it's for programs or just having drop-ins, and just a lot of the other links too I think will come in handy for helping you to really find some great examples of incorporating any of the 5 practices in your library programming, or again just in the drop-ins that we set up so that they can be talking, possibly singing, or having music quietly, reading, writing, and again play for for whatever you're doing in your library. So then I have the bibliography, and you can see that there's the Common Core Standards and Encyclopedia of Play Science and the book talk tips in a number of places, and just other things too that you might find come in handy to implement any of these ideas. And then I do want to give credit for the graphic that I kind of stole from Every Child Ready to Read. There was a little star in the child's hand for them, and I just had to put a book in it, so I kind of made my own. Shh, don't tell. And here's another slide with resources, and that I hope you can find handy, including that search Creative Commons for music search. And then their sources there are CC Mixter or Jamendo for finding music that you might be able to do for your own programs. So there's a few minutes if anyone has any other questions, or if Jamie can give me the questions. I'm not really good at that, and I'm just going to hide that and let Jamie help me out with it. Okay, good.
Can you repeat the resources you talked about in the reading section? Do you recall what those were?
Reading would have been, let me see here. I'll go back to the bibliography page. And so reading for, one of them is like, great. There's the literacy for literature, and there's a lot of different English language standards for different kinds of reading too, like nonfiction and all that. But the literature is the one that I really liked here. And then also with the talking, you can use this one, and I didn't mention that on the reading page. Book talks are right here. Book talk tips, and you are seeing that little red dot, right? The little pointer.
Yes.
Okay, and then here's Scholastic's book talks that I mentioned. There's just all these book talks, and it just really, I figured that would work really well. And then too, if you need a little, oh, dang it, I did it wrong here. Right here is the rubric for that a teacher put for book talk assignments, and it just gave me a better understanding of what I want to do when I present book talks, and not everything it was made for 6th and 7th graders, but it just kind of gave me some ideas. And then here's another one with book talks. And then for the resources page, any of these will, especially like books by theme, Colored in Colorado, I just love their site. And Reading Rockets is their sister site. So, you're just going to find good ideas off of any of those. And then two that I use for music are these two, the singing. Here's Wisconsin, Growing Wisconsin Readers. Their school site just gives you a lot of different authors to choose from when it comes to choosing books for a school age. And it is younger school age. It is picture books, but they're still just, really good ones. And then, and then the other one is Play in the Library and Creative Commons.
Great. So when you are doing a story time, do you make a conscious effort to try to incorporate several of these in one of them, or what is your goal usually? Is it to, I'm sure you always are, whether you know it or not, but what is your thinking behind that?
And part of me wants to say all five, and some of the programs you can just incorporate all five of the practices into one program, depending on, how much time you have to plan for it. And it's just a way, no matter what kind of learners you're working with them, that if you can do something that's hands-on, you can do something that's auditory, and you can do something that's visual, you're going to get all your different learners, and you're going to find a way to just enhance the program for each one of the kids that are there. But otherwise, no, sometimes they do have a goal, and it's just going to be one, it's just going to be two. Especially I might just have a program specifically about music, and then if we hit any of the other practices, so be it. But it depends on the time of year. It depends on what we're focused on. and what the theme would be for the practices. But that's what's so much fun about working in a library is we have all the early learning standards, and we have other standards and best practices, but we don't have this timetable that says we have to do this then
Right.
and we have to do this then like a teacher would. We get to just have so much fun with it, and that's just the joy of working in a library and just having that freedom to just develop your own program to meet your community's needs, to meet the kids' needs, to even, work with your strengths or to challenge yourself and going ahead and trying singing in a public library.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, and I'm going to, ask
Oh,
the audience too if they have any ideas, and feel free to share those in the question box. But someone was wondering if you started thinking ahead to next summer with the sports theme, and how you might incorporate, if you have any ideas, or how you might incorporate some of these practices into those types of programs.
yeah. Well, with music, I'm thinking things like jump rope rhymes, and whether or not we're actually pulling jump ropes out, although I do have some of those, because I'll take the kids outside for programming now that Highway 54 is a little bit farther away from the front of our library.
Right.
And then, like with the writing, that's the chalk drawing, and I will do that at least once a week with the kids all summer for the 10 weeks, because I have a program every day from 1 to 2:30 Monday through Friday for the 10 weeks of summer programming. So I have to come up with quite a bit of ideas.
Yeah.
There's like 49 different programs because we only take off for the 4th of July or that day that, we're doing 4th of July observed. So, so we do a lot of the chalk, and I have these fitness cubes to get them moving, and then we might, use music for that as well. For writing, I've got the journals, and we'll do at least a bit of poetry. And so this summer I'm thinking for poetry, just all the really fun action verbs that are fitness related, and just writing poetry around that. Play is just getting them moving, and then we just have we'll play almost a board game a day. And if I can theme that for the summer, I do. But a lot of it this summer, then the play will be with like my fitness cubes, or I have cards that are called Fit Deck, and then I have these plastic, rubbery, vinyl-y squares that'll have an activity, and then I've got another one that's a number one, and I'll throw them on the floor. I'll have a volunteer throw them on the floor, and they follow the path through the library and have to do those activities.
Okay, great. Well, I think we are just about out of time, Kymberley. Again, I want to thank you for talking about these practices and sharing some great resources. As I mentioned at the beginning, the recording will be up, and I will make sure that we get the PowerPoint presentation up as well, so you all can take a look at the resources. You didn't have to ferociously scribble these down. So thank you again, Kymberley. Thank you all for listening in. And I hope to see some of you
Thank you very much.
I hope to see some of you at the Wild Wisconsin Conference, and if not there, then at future programs in 2016. So take care, everybody. Have a great week, and have a happy holidays.